The Maple Leafs are up 2-0 in the best of seven, but the underlying numbers aren't very rosy. How could that be? Are the Leafs in for a rude awakening with the series shifting to Ottawa? We'll get into that and more on today's Game 3 preview of the Battle of Ontario on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. What's happening, Dave? How we feeling? Game day, game number 3 coming up later tonight.
Yeah, I can't wait for the, another home game.
Are we going to get into that? Are we going to start there, Dave? Are we really going to start by throwing shade to the Ottawa faithful? I mean, they're trying their best. Like, I heard that they're really, really doing their best not to allow as many Leaf fans as possible into that building. The season ticket holders were trying to, hold on to their tickets and try and sell off to other Senators fans. But you and I both are pretty much expecting maybe not quite a 50-50 split, but I think it'll be, I don't know, maybe 75-25, maybe if the Sens are lucky, 70-30 probably, closer to it with the amount of Leaf fans that are expected to travel into that barn.
Yeah, I mean, look, the fact of the matter is you can try your best to keep Leaf fans out, but let's not forget that this is in Ontario. You're gonna get fans who live in Ottawa. Some of them probably have season tickets, or have friends who have season tickets who are gonna find a way to get in that building.
Right.
Like we saw this even, I think, when the Leafs played the Panthers.
Florida, yeah.
Right, and the Panthers like, oh, we're gonna do our best to keep Canadians from being able to buy tickets. Some of these Canadians have some friends who live in Florida that could probably get them some tickets. Like there's always a way. If there's a rule, there's always a way to find a way to break the rule.
Yeah, I would imagine we'll see a decent amount of Leaf fans down there. What type of hockey game you expecting though? Like Ottawa, they gotta turn it up a notch because they're letting Toronto, kind of take this thing and they can't afford to lose this game. You lose tonight if you're Ottawa, you're down 3 Cobb. It's night, lights out. Like they have to play with absolute desperation tonight, don't you think?
Yeah, I that's what I was thinking. Like you're gonna see a more desperate Ottawa team. I think they played pretty desperate hockey, but I think they're gonna try to feed off the emotion of the atmosphere of being home. And they understand
home, Dave. Home.
Sorry, yes, home. I just think that they understand that really a series doesn't sway one way or the other until you play that, when one team loses at home and the other team wins on the road, right?
That's what they say, right? Like you're not out of it until you lose a game at home. And so far they haven't. They've lost both on the road, but if they lose this game at home, it's looking awful dicey for them to keep their season alive at that point.
Yeah, exactly, right. And that's the thing. They understand that 3-0, it's a position no one ever wants to be in. It's almost like kiss of death in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Very rarely has that 3-0 lead been squandered.
No, it doesn't happen very often. And the Maple Leafs, again, we referenced this stat on the last show. Anytime the Leafs go up 2-0 in their own building, 2-0 in a series, they're 10-0. So they close out the series whenever they go up 2-0 and they have home ice advantage from that point on. So, I mean, we'll see if they can make it 11-0 in this series. But I think it's going to be a fight tonight. I really do. I think that, and quite literally a fight. Like, it doesn't seem like it's been as aggressive as a series as I expected it to be. Like, it's the playoffs, right? It's the Battle of Ontario. I was just watching. I don't know why it popped up on my Instagram feed, but I'm just sitting there scrolling, and all of a sudden, that one mayhem fight pops up from Edmonton, Calgary a couple of years ago. Remember that one?
Mike Smith,
Talbot, yeah, and Matt Kachuk. It was literally an entire line brawl, and then the goalies go at it, and like just listening to the crowd get engaged, listening to the announcers say, "This is not the Battle of Alberta's been waiting 30 years for." I want to hear Joe Bowen say that tonight. That's what I want to hear. Like, it hasn't quite gotten to the animosity hasn't quite shown up yet in this series. And I think that's actually favored Toronto. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I think that definitely has, because the Leafs have been known to shy away from that type of pushback, and they don't want to get into that type of game. But Ottawa should want to get there, and they should get there tonight, because that will be, I think, a big difference at home in your own building, defending your home ice. Especially after, like, the talk in the room, over the course of the last couple of days has been how the Leafs got away with, Anthony Stolarz abusing Ridley Gregg. Like, again today, on the off day, you got to hear Travis Green squawk off about it. It's like, that's what they continue to hear. So they're going to go at the goalie. I guarantee you, Ridley Gregg is going to get into Stolarz's kitchen. He's going to snow him on every opportunity he can. Brady Tkachuk is going to go hard to the net, accidentally on purpose fall and, fall on the goaltender when he's crashing in on a rebound. What's going to happen. And I think the Maple Leafs are going to have to respond. And I think tonight I'm expecting more of an ugly game, a little more scrums, face wash. Maybe we finally get our first fight of the series. We haven't had a fight yet. We're into game 3 in the Battle of Ontario. I haven't seen anyone chuck the gloves yet. Like Max Domi, Ridley Gregg, let's get this thing underway. Maybe Brandon Carlo could step up. Jake McCabe. Like, I'm just shocked that we haven't seen it. And there's one player in particular on the other side that I think will definitely want to do something to spark the crowd tonight, and that's Brady Tkachuk. He's someone I'm anticipating having a big-time game. Like, we saw what he did at the Four Nations, him and his brother, to get the crowd fired up for that big game. Well, this is a bigger game for him here. He's the captain, and I think I wouldn't be shocked if we saw Brady Tkachuk look to, Chuck Knucks with someone on the Maple Leafs tonight.
Yeah, just to go back to that Ridley Gregg being abused comment, maybe the coach should tell his player not to skate into the goaltender's crease.
Well, that's it. Yeah, you're in the blue paint. Fair game.
Like even before this, even after the slashes, guys getting whacked. Okay, yeah, that's a little much, but you're gonna stand there, you're gonna take the punishment. But the fact that after being slashed, what does the guy do? He doesn't skate away. Skates right to the crease.
Through it.
Like, come on. You don't want to, if you don't want the smoke, right? Don't go into the fire.
That's right, Dave. That's right.
Ridley Gregg wants the smoke. I'm sorry, Anthony Stolarz is going to deliver.
Well, and if he doesn't, someone else should, right? Like the Leafs have a Ridley Gregg problem. The guy's becoming an ultimate pest. He's the Sam Bennett, the Brad Marchand of the Ottawa Senators. And, it'd be nice someone kind of maybe take the bull by the horns here a little bit and kind of, make Ridley Gregg do something, not just be a pest, but actually, drop the mitts and goon it up a little bit. Don't just be, a little softy and sit there and shy away from answering the bell. If you want to get into it, all right, let's get into it. So hopefully someone can get that done. But I like I said, I don't think that benefits Toronto playing that way, to be honest with you. I think it more so benefits Ottawa, especially on home ice. Yep. But I'm anticipating them trying to muck it up a little bit tonight, because playing the other way hasn't really worked out for them, which is interesting because the underlying numbers do suggest that the Senators should have won. Possibly the first 2 games, definitely the first game between the two teams, but they haven't. They're down 0-2, so they got to try and find a different way to do it. That being said, I want to dive into those numbers a little bit because I have a bit of a theory as to why it doesn't concern me, because I've seen a lot of talk online about how the Maple Leafs, the underlying numbers aren't good, and they could be in for a rude awakening when they travel to Ottawa and don't have the line match capabilities. So let's get into that conversation next here on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. The NHL playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking your favorite team or you could dive into some player props, from goal scorers to point props to power play point shots, you name it. FanDuel has so many ways to bet on your favorite players. Plus, after the game starts, you can even combine live prop bets into a same game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. The Locked On Leafs podcast continues. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti, as we are each and every weekday here in the Locked On Leafs podcast, Monday through Friday, free and available wherever you get your podcasts at, and also on YouTube. All right, Dave. You hear that? Is that coming? Okay, the laundry machine's going like on the other side of this wall, and I wasn't sure if it was coming through or not. And if you could hear that, it's a little loud over here. But if it's not going through on your end, then I think we're good. All right, cool. Sounds good. Let's continue. Maple Leafs, Senators, Game 3 tonight in the Battle of Ontario. Toronto looking to take a stranglehold 3-0 lead. But there's been some discourse, Dave. I don't know if you've seen this with, mainly Senators fans. I don't know if Leaf fans are all too worried about it. But Sens fans, maybe it's just their way of grasping at straws here about being down 2-0 in the series. But essentially just trying to point out the underlying numbers, the Corsi, the shot share percentage, expected goals, all that good stuff at 5-on-5, and basically pointing and saying, Ottawa's winning. Ottawa's been winning this series. In those departments, they have more scoring chances, right? The Corsi, the shot share. Ottawa has 62% of the shot share. They have 55% of the expected goals, 60% of the scoring chances. Like, that's pretty much where the Ottawa Senators are or their fan base is looking at things and saying, we should have had a better outcome. And they are trying to believe that going forward they will. First of all, do you have a comment about that at all, Dave? And I mean, does it concern you, I guess, the fact that the Maple Leafs, when it comes to the underlying numbers, have not necessarily looked great, but they seem to keep winning, though. So I don't know. But where are you at with this?
Look, we have been on the other side of this. We have seen the Leafs have good games with the underlying numbers, and it hasn't led to wins. To me, it's almost like the playoffs. Things sort of balance out if you do the right things that you need to do, right? Last game, the Senators had a lot of shot attempts. How many blocks did the Leafs have? Over 30 in the last game. Because, Ottawa's
bunch of shot attempts, but only had, I think, 7 more shots. And in terms of high danger chances, only one more high danger chance. So,
to me, that's more important for me is that, okay, if you're going to allow these chances, you better make sure that they're not getting them on net, right? You're getting into those lanes. I think that's what's gotten me thinking it's a little different for the Leafs this year, just because, they're doing the little things that they hadn't really been able to do, or they're more driven and focused on doing the little things that are going to lead to them winning. Yeah, maybe you like to see them get more chances on net, that's for sure. But I also want to see them put up, play sound in the areas that they need to be played, not thinking too much always about getting scoring chances, but also keeping the puck out of your own net too.
Oh, for sure. And I think two things to me, I guess I have 3 reasons as to why I'm not concerned at all about the lopsided underlying metrics. And don't get me wrong, I'm a believer in analytics. I think that they do, often tell a story, and they do often line up with, good, strong analytics, often line up with good play. But I will say a couple of things. One, good goaltending can really be an ultimate equalizer, and that's what the Leafs have gotten from Anthony Stolarz. And there's no reason to believe, because he's been this guy for the last 6 weeks. Like, he's won 10 games in a row now, Dave. Like, he won the last 8 games of the regular season. He's now won 2 games here in the playoffs. He's got like a .945 save percentage combined in his last 10. Like, he's playing unbelievable right now. Looks like a top 5 goalie, and that can be an ultimate equalizer. You know what else is? A power play that can score goals. The power play is 4 for 7 in this series. 4 for 7, and they've been making quick work of those opportunities too. The 4 that they've scored have all been within 10 seconds or less of starting those power plays. So, there's another reason as to why I'm not all that concerned, because Toronto, even if they do allow a goal at 5-on-5, a backbreaker, let's say, which again has not been happening, Toronto can get up to the power play and find success, because they've been able to do that. And then the last thing that I want to bring up is Toronto's, like, okay, you look at their scoring chances, okay? So Toronto only has 29 scoring chances at 5-on-5 this year, or in this series, right? 29 scoring chances. This is at 5-on-5, yeah. So this is at 5-on-5. So they're being outchanced 45-29. Toronto has 4 goals on those 29 chances with a 13% shooting percentage in those chances, whereas Ottawa has just 2 goals in those 45 chances. What that tells me is Toronto's a much better finishing team. And if you look at the Ottawa Senators and their offense at 5-on-5 this year, Dave, they ranked 30th in the league in 5-on-5 scoring this season. That's not good at all. So I'm not that concerned, because Toronto may not be mustering up more chances than Ottawa, but they're mustering up enough, and they have the players that can finish and put the puck in the back of the net. Like guys like Riley, I mean, yeah, he's got 2 goals, I guess, but that's not what I was going to get to. Guys like Nylander, guys like Nyes, guys like Matthews and Tavares, like those dudes are able to create some really, really grade A chances for themselves, and they have a better opportunity of converting on those chances than the Bathersons or the Stutzlas or the Kachucks of the world, right? Like they just do. They quite literally are better goal scorers. And to me, that's also something that should give Leaf fans a lot of solace in these underlying numbers. Like, okay, you're giving up scoring chances, but you're getting stops, and your stars are better at scoring goals than theirs. They just simply are. The stats are there. Like Toronto had 45 goals from Nylander, 38 goals from Tavares. You had 30 from Nyes. You had 33 from Matthews. Marner chipped in with 30 or so goals. Like they just have that secondary scoring and guys who can put the puck in the back of the net. And to me, those are like 3 of the biggest reasons as to why I'm not concerned about the underlying numbers. They have the ultimate equalizer in goal. They're able to kind of get an advantage on the power play, and then their superstars know how to finish, and they've been able to do that so far and can continue to do so in this series, I believe, with the way that they're playing and the amount of swagger that they seemingly have. And for that reason, I'm not concerned at all about the discrepancy at the Leafs and Sens numbers at 5-on-5.
Yeah, to me, it's like the Senators have we talked about Travis Green saying, they believe that they deserved a better fate in Game 2. Look at that overtime winner. First off, we didn't give enough love for Simon Benoit for his play on that goal, not just the rush and taking it out, but also the screen that gave Allmark fit. Like that screen, I think, allowed that slight distraction that Dobie needed for that shot. But where did it all start? Drake Batherson goes into the zone, makes a careless pass that gets picked off, and Ottawa had the numbers. You were 2-on-4. And Drake Batherson doesn't make a good defensive play, and it ends up in the back of your net. Sure, you could play really good for 60 minutes or however long you played at 5-on-5, But if you make those critical errors, Toronto has seen this. That's why I made it that point to say it. This has been a recipe that Toronto has seen gone against them so many times. I think back to that series against the Canadians in 2021. You play so well in that game, but Alex Galchenyuk makes that dumb pass that leads to a break, a 2-0, and you lose the game. Like you can play so well, but situationally, if you're not dialed in, if you're not, ready for those moments, you are not going to come out on the winning way. And that's, I think, the difference between what Toronto has done in this series, what Ottawa has done in this series.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, I think you bring up a solid point there, and to, like, takeaways and giveaways category, Toronto's leading in that department too. Like they have more takeaways and less giveaways than the Ottawa Senators have had. So, when you look at the turnover department, Toronto's been able to win that battle. And again, what caused the game-winning goal in overtime? It was a turnover at the blue line in Toronto, and they're able to break out, transition up ice quickly, and turn it into the game-winning goal. Right? Like you don't give that puck away if you're Batherson. That obviously does not happen, right? So that's going to be another big thing too. I'm sure Ottawa keening on not making those stupid decisions and not turning pucks over and giving the puck away, especially in positions like that. All right, we'll continue to tee up Game 3 between the Maple Leafs and the Ottawa Senators next here in the Locked On Leafs podcast.
Today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. It gives me great insights into kind of where my money is going, where I'm spending every month, how much I'm earning versus how much I'm spending, and it's all done in one convenient app. I don't have to go and check one app to see where how my accounts are doing. I don't have to check another account for my investments or my credit cards. Everything is just all done, and it allows me to plan my long-term goals more conveniently. And if you're managing money with your partner, it's smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year.
The Locked On Leafs podcast continues. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you here as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. You can find the Locked On Leafs podcast wherever you get your podcasts at. You can also find us up on YouTube. If you enjoy our show, we ask that you please subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts, or also on YouTube, and keep locked into what's going on with the Leafs all season long. And we're not just throughout the regular season. We keep this thing going all year long, all throughout the summer and off season as well. So, if you want to be locked into the Toronto Maple Leafs, you got to be with the Locked On boys here on the Locked On Leafs podcast. Maple Leafs heading up north to Ottawa, their second home, to take on the Senators in Game 3 of the series. Looking to take a stranglehold 3-0 lead and pretty much put this bad boy to bed at that point. So Craig Berube was asked yesterday if he's contemplating any lineup changes, or if he's just gonna roll status quo, go with the same winning lineup. Didn't quite give a definitive answer. Said, we'll see. He probably will keep with the same lineup, but they're gonna look at some things and see. So no definitive answers, but Dave, do you believe they should make some lineup adjustments as they shift this series up north to Ottawa, where they'll now have final change? Does that factor in to your lineup decisions at all anyway?
Well, a big one for me here is, you don't have the last change, and defensively, there's some lines that aren't cutting it. Like part of the reason why Ottawa's owned some of the advantages when it comes to possession times, some of the some lines just haven't brought it in the same way. And I think the one for me is that third line has kind of been makeshift around a little bit. Now it's, Domi, McMahon, and Robertson were back together again. And to me, it just hasn't looked right. And then I look at a guy like Nick Robertson where it's almost like we're back to the regular season again, where it's like, what exactly is it you're doing in the lineup now? Like,
what would you say you do here?
Yeah, like
exactly.
I almost, and I hate to say this, I kind of want to scratch Nick Robertson out of spite so that the next time you put him into the lineup, he scores.
Yeah, I mean that's another reason to do it, I suppose. Taking stupid high sticking penalties, which he seems to do literally every game. Like it's insane how unlucky or how careless realistically this guy is with his stick when he's out there on the ice, because it does feel like every single game he's getting a high sticking call. But yeah, like that line as a whole at 5-on-5, they're getting outplayed. Just 40% of the expected goals in their favor. They haven't generated a single high danger scoring chance at all at 5-on-5 as a trio. They've only given up one high danger chance themselves, I suppose. So, you can look at that, I guess, and take some solace in it. But, that trio is not necessarily out there to be defensively stout. Obviously, like 60% of their starts are in the O zone, offensive zone. So they're expected to generate some secondary, tertiary scoring. But 2 games in, 0 high danger chances. You might want to mix something up a little bit. And I don't know, like, who's the guy you're thinking of that potentially would have came in for him, I guess? Like, do we even know if Max Pacioretty's ready to go? I think that's probably the guy you're looking at, right? I guess you could consider, you could put Pontus on the wing, I guess, and move Domi up, and then all of a sudden maybe you can move Camp in there. Like you could do some crazy things, but I don't know. Is it probably just Nicky Bobby out and Pacioretty in, or like what lineup changes would you make specifically?
I was saying if you want to bring in a guy who's maybe going to be more defensively sound, you can definitely bring in Camp.
Yeah.
Right. I would be thinking you got to really decide. Do you want to play the defensive aspect, or do you want to get a little more, a little more punch in the lineup? And that's where I think Max Pacioretty fills that in a bit more. He's got the size, he's got the aggressive. But I was also told by someone, maybe you consider holding Pacioretty for the next series, where maybe you need a little more of the what was I going to say, more of the physical play. And
you got to focus on this series first, though. I mean, I'm not looking past and already thinking, we'll hold off and we'll wait until we get to round 2. Dave, this team's won one round once in 9 years. I don't think we could sit here and be like, we could afford to hold out Pacioretty. We'll put him in there around. If he's good to go, Dave, I think you put him in the lineup tonight. I don't know if he's healthy, though. I don't know if he's ready to play. He's been skating a little bit, but I don't know if he's ready to go to get activated so he can actually get inserted into the lineup. That's my only concern. I feel like if he was healthy, I think there would be more consideration, just because, I mean, what Robertson play the last game? Like 9 minutes? The guy barely played at all, and took a bad penalty. So to me, I mean, if I would consider taking him out regardless and putting in David Kampf, just because, again, having someone who's a little bit more defensively responsible, I think would probably help you out. And maybe you put Domi back up to the second line, or maybe, maybe that's it. You put Domi back up to the second line and you roll with Kampf, Holmberg, and Bobby McMahon as your third line. And see if they can just be defensively reliable, maybe generate some chances, but really just be a defensively responsible line, along with the Yarncroc, Lawton, Lorentz, and let the top 6 cook in the offensive end. That's probably what I would be considering if I had the lineup card myself.
Yeah, and it's crazy because like the Leafs do have options, but we're kind of thinking that their lineup's pretty good for what it's been like. And I think what you'll likely see is they'll stick with the lineup for game 3.
Mm.
But if Robertson or like that third line continues to not play to his potential, that could be the one that gets the shake up going
Yeah,
into.
or I mean, if they lose, like that's the other argument. It's like, well, it's been a winning lineup. Like they haven't
Yeah.
lost yet, so like, why if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But um, I think it could still like it's interesting because I think David Kampf might be a more impactful playoff player than Nick Robertson. Like that's kind of what it comes down to for me, especially on the road when you don't have the ability to match up lines. Just having someone a little bit more responsible in your bottom six to me would be I don't know just a smarter way to deploy my lineup. That's just how my mind thinks about that.
Well, that's it. Right? I just think that when you're looking at Nick Robertson, you there's only so much time you can kind of wait before it's like, all right, if it's not going to happen, somebody else has to go on and do it.
Question for
Right.
you, and it's this is completely going off topic, little tangent here. It doesn't really
Mhm.
matter right now, but do you see Nick Robertson getting like even RFA tendered next year now by Toronto? Like, I think if it's now, Sheldon Keefe didn't see this guy in a playoff role. I don't think it'll be long before Craig Berube decides that Nicky Bobby is not quite cut out for the playoffs and finds himself, sitting up in the press box. If that's the case, man, his days are probably going to be numbered. Like I could see the Leafs just non-tendering him and letting him walk as an unrestricted free agent come July 1. I could really see that being the case, unless he turns his game around real quick here in the playoffs.
Well, that's it, right? Like a lot of players are playing for like you see how Marner and Tavares. I know it's a little bit different. Their situation is a little different, but like
What about Nice? He's an
right,
RFA too.
right. You see, like Nick Robertson and Matthew Knies were both second round picks. I get it. Robertson had his development kind of cut a bit with injuries and the pandemic, but we haven't seen that arc to seeing him reach that playoff caliber. Like they that's one player that I feel like if he played to his potential, we wouldn't be having this discussion. He probably wouldn't even be third line player. He might be playing in
No,
that second line.
he would be. I mean, he's a better scoring option than Pontus Holmberg when
Yeah.
he's at his best, but that doesn't seem to be happening a whole lot these days.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where, maybe there was the talent part was there, but when it comes to like I just see him sometimes looking outmatched, right? He's trying, it's just not there.
It's just the size. Like when it comes
Yeah.
down to the playoffs, like you're just going to get moved around. Like he's just a undersized, and he's just like what's he weigh? Like 170 pounds. Like
Yeah.
fairly small player. There's a reason why the last coach didn't quite see him as a playoff player, and kind of maybe seeing here the first 2 games, he hasn't proven that he's a playoff player under Berube either. So, but hey, we're only 2 games in. Only 2 games in. He could still change, and he can go out there, rip home 2 goals tonight in Ottawa, and I'll come and eat crow on this podcast. Maybe he's the one who drops the mitts with Ridley Gregg, gives him a couple lefts and rights. You know what I'm saying? Then all of a sudden, Nicky Bobby becomes priority number 1 this summer to get signed. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I don't know. That's really the only lineup change that I would consider. No, goaltending, absolutely not. Which I don't think anyone's suggesting that. I get it. Stolars hasn't played 3 games in a row too often this year, but it's the playoffs, man. It's he has to. If the Leafs are going to win a championship, he's going to have to play a lot of games here in a row and figure that out, and hopefully remain healthy throughout the entire playoff run. All right. Anything else you want to get to before we wrap things up, Dave?
No, I can't wait for game 3, man. Can't wait to
Yeah.
see how if we get a little more feistiness.
I think there'll be some fireworks. I think it'll be early too. I think it'll be very early in this game. I truly believe the Ottawa Senators are going to look to get some things started, muck it up, get it dirty, drop the mitts, and try and get the crowd into it real quick. And they'll want to score the first goal of the game too. That's important. I think whoever scores first wins the game. That's ultimately how I see it happening. I think that scoring first has been such a momentum grabber for the Leafs early on, while they were at home at least. I think they could continue to do that if they can do that here in Toronto or in Ottawa. So withstand that first 10 minutes in Ottawa. They're going to send everything at you. They're going to try and hit. They're going to try and get under your skin. They're going to try and bombard Stolars. Just try and weather that storm. And then, score, a little counterpunch on the other side of that 10-minute mark. Take a 1-2-0 lead into the first period. And I think you coast from there. You'll be laughing. Next thing you know, the Leafs are up 3 Cobb in the series. I could see that happening tonight. I really, really could. All right, that'll do it for us today here on the podcast. And thank you all for listening and supporting this show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow. Enjoy the game tonight, 7 o'clock puck drop. Leafs sends Game 3, Battle of Ontario. Go Leafs, go. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.